So the lesson that I want to share with you this morning is based on my book, The Art of Uncertainty. And the real crux of the book lies in the subtitle, How to Live in the Mystery of Life and Love It. If you think about it, how many of you have already read it? I know you're studying the book. Any of you have read it this month already?
Part of it. Part of it.
So if you've already heard some things I want to talk about, just act as if you haven't heard them. Okay? Go like, that's profound. Think about it this way, that life is already the ultimate mystery. If you think about it, we don't have a lot of control over the fact that life is a mystery, whether we like it or not. Think about this. We came from the ethers of the greatest mystery of all. No one knows what's out in the beyond, the great beyond, right? And all of a sudden, our soul essence lands in this physical garment of flesh and bone, which is simply, this body is nothing more or less than a carbon-based, biodegradable, disposable vessel that the soul rides around in during its period of time on this planet. And at the appropriate time, it ejects it and returns back to the ethers from which it came, which is the great mystery. So where we come from and where we return to is a profound mystery. No one knows. And yet, the truth is that from the time we get here until the time we leave is no less a mystery than where we come from and where we're going to return to. We just go unconscious and pretend it's not until something pops up in front of us that causes us the necessity of stepping forward and moving out of where we are into something new. And all of a sudden, uncertainty becomes a real challenging issue for us. Can I get a witness? Anybody relate with that?
Yes. Totally.
So there's not one point in our lives, consider this, where the mystery doesn't already exist. In your relationships, it's a mystery. Your careers are, there's great uncertainty. Look at politics right now, what's going on our planet. There's a lot of uncertainty going on the planet. So we can't avoid the fact that uncertainty is part of the human condition.
Yes.
Sure.
So the question is not do we get rid of uncertainty, but how do we learn to deal with it and embrace it in a way that is proactive and healthy for us rather than destructive and reactive. What if you could do this? What if we could turn uncertainty into a spiritual experience? What if we could turn the mystery into a mystical experience? What is a mystic? Ernest Holmes says a mystic is somebody who perceives the presence of infinite intelligence beyond the veil of the five senses and accesses that intelligence to be the guiding force within his or her life. That's what a mystic is. A mystic is nobody other than someone who accesses that inner, innate, divine guidance and listens to it and follows its lead. So, would you agree that we're all mystics?
Yes.
Shake your head like this.
Yes.
Now, there's some good news and some other news about that. Some of us are optimistics, and some of us are pessimists because we are at choice. Yeah,
Yes.
we're at choice. And so the question is this: if you're standing on the edge of uncertainty, which we all are every moment of every day, whether you like it or not. Okay, no one knows what's going to happen in the next moment. Would you rather be on the ledge holding the hand of an optimist or a pessimist? That's a pretty stupid question, isn't it? The pessimist is saying, my God, whatever you do, the pessimist is looking for what's wrong. Don't look down, you could fall, you could lose everything. Just stay where you are, stay put, stay frozen, you'll be okay. The optimist is saying, lean over, trust, have faith, look up. Trust and know that there's something within you that knows how to get you to what is next if you just let it do its part for you, with you. That's the mystical experience. And you know what? Here's the hook, man. We are taught from a very young age to be pessimists. We are. Think about this. Most of our children, have you ever raised a 2-year-old? Or a toddler? I've got a grandson now who's just getting a year old, and all of a sudden he has become terror on legs because he's starting to crawl now, And all of a sudden, he's exploring every place he can get to when his mom turns her back. And so children are hardwired to explore. Children are hardwired to go beyond the realm of what we know as safety until we reel them in and say, no, don't do that. Come back into this crib, this little box, and you do what I say, color within the lines, and you'll be safe. You'll be fine. Everything will be good. That's abnormal information to give children. I know we do it for their own safety, and we love them and all that, but it's also programming them to not look beyond the boundaries of what we set for them. And you know what happens when we do that with children? We grow into it, and we're not even aware that we're doing it. We get stuck in a rut because we can't get outside of the box. We get in the rut. We're walking back and forth in our lives in this rut. And as you go in the rut, what happens over a period of time? The rut gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And pretty soon it's up to here and you can't see anything in the future because you're stuck in the rut. And you know, there's one of two ways that we get out that God has imbued us with motivation to get out of the ruts in our life. You know what they are, don't you? Inspiration or desperation. We're inspired to move on to what's next into unknown territory, into expansion, which is we're hardwired to expand, to push out, to grow. Or we're pushed out of that rut out of desperation because it hurts too much to stay there. And a lot of times people's actions to go into the unknown are driven by pain and fear rather than inspiration and faith. Mm-hmm. And you carry that energy with you either way. And you know, there's no place you can see this inspiration or desperation thing working better than in nature. Animals can't override their instinctual necessity to move beyond their fear. If they did, they'd cease to be. Example, this is a true story. It's actually in the book. Years ago, when my wife and I lived in California, we lived in a beautiful open space that backed up to the hills, and there was just open, wild territory behind us. And every spring, a family of birds would come and build their nest up underneath the awning of the patio cover, just outside the bay window of the kitchen. It's true. And we'd sit there, we could watch the mom and dad build the nest, line it with feathers and twigs and all that, and when we were there, the day the babies were born, the eggs were there, and we watched the gestation period of the eggs. I was there the morning that the chicks not only were hatched, but I was there the morning that they decided it was time to leave the nest. Why do you think they left the nest? This is question and answer time. Because there was no room for them to continue to grow in the nest, right? And I think mom probably got tired of bringing them worms. So I was there standing in the kitchen window in the morning this is a true story. The first chick got up out of his nest and came up to the ledge. There's a big ledge 10 feet off the ground holding the patio awning up. And this bird comes to the edge of the ledge and he's flapping these little appendages. He has no idea what they're for. He's never used them, right? He's looking down. He looks back up like this. And he looks down. He looks up like this. And I don't speak birdies, but if he did, you know what he'd be saying? Holy bananas, that's a long way down. I could lose everything. I could die, right? And yet, he continued to flap his wings wildly, I think intentionally, and leaning forward into the call of gravity until his wild thrashing of his wings caused him to fall into the call of gravity. And what happened? Q&A time. What happened?
He crashed.
He flew, right? He flew around the patio one time and went off into the avocado grove and landed on the branch of an avocado tree. He was out there chirping away. Second one comes out and does the same thing. Comes to the edge, looks over, does this, and then falls in the call gravity, flies and goes out and lands on the branch of the avocado tree. Third one does the same thing. Falls, leans into the call gravity, falls over, flaps his wings, goes and lands out in the tree. The fourth one, different story. He's a little smaller than the rest of them. He comes up, he does this, he looks down, does this, then he runs back and jumps back in the nest, where he stayed for probably 5 minutes or so. While his three siblings were out in the avocado grove, chirping away. I'm sure they were probably, cheering him on. Come on, Henry, you can do it. Get out, just jump, trust, have faith, do it. Without a pause, he jumps out of his nest and runs and just literally jumps off the ledge of the awning. Didn't stop, didn't think about it, he just jumped. Flapped his wings, of course, thank you for your help. So there's four, he lands out on the avocado branch with his siblings, and they're chirping away, and they're just having, you can hear them just singing, you get a little birdie high fives, they just had a great experience. They liberated themselves from the bondage of a nest. Consider that. And they had to go beyond where they've ever gone before, right? So they were chirping away, and then they took off in unison. It was really spectacular. All four of them circled the entire avocado grove one time, and they flew off into the ethers of birddom to experience and to explore what their purpose on life was to be, which is to be a bird. Now, the whole time when I was watching, I didn't see the mom bird around at all. I didn't see dad bird. I didn't see mom on the edge of the ledge with the babies going, okay, honey, flap your wings, trust, lean forward, say your positive affirmations, and everything's going to be fine. No, nothing. There was something within the bird that knew that it knew how to fly. Mom didn't have to teach it how to fly. There was an inherent knowing imprinted in the DNA of that bird, instinctually, physically, that knew what it needed to do to get to what was next. And I thought about this, I love metaphors. I thought, man, if birds, if the divine infinite intelligence that is, can imbue a bird with that knowing, would we not also, as free-thinking beings, be imbued with the ability and the wisdom to go to what's next in our lives if we would just get ourselves out of the way? Shake your head like this. Yes, we would. The difference between us and a bird, this is funny, we're bird brains and the birds are not. The birds, they don't have the ability, like most animals, to think logic. They don't, their minds can't go out in front of them and say, well, what's going to happen if I do that? They just are guided by the infinite intelligence. It's a little different story for some of us. We get in our own way when we come to the edge of the unknown. Yeah?
Yeah.
There's a great Zen saying, move, and the way will open. Move, and the way will open. It does not say sit there on your keister and hope that the way opens, and if it does open, and if it's convenient enough, then move. Move. What is he saying? What are they saying with that saying? We have a role. What did Ernest Holmes say about treat, and move your feet? We have a role to play. Okay? And so what I've come up with this presentation is 3 questions that you can ask yourself on a daily basis to see how you can come to the edge of your own uncertainties and not just live in them, but to use them as a litmus test to move you towards what's next. And for everybody in this room, came in this room probably with someplace in your life where you're either stuck and don't know it, or you're stuck and you really know it, with making some sort of move forward in your life. And so the first question that you get to ask yourself on a regular basis is, what role does fear play in keeping me stuck? What role does fear play in keeping you stuck from moving forward? Now let's be clear, let's not demonize fear. Because fear, a lot of us probably wouldn't be in this room today. We would have made it to adulthood without a little fear being instilled in us as we grew up. Can I get a witness for that? Okay? Here's the problem. Somewhere between childhood and adulthood, we dragged a lot of the fears from childhood into adulthood, and the boundary between what to fear and what not to fear became very blurred. And so we drag a lot of our childhood fears into adulthood where they do not belong. And it limits us. Have you ever noticed that when you're faced with some sort of a decision-making process and there's a little bit of fear rises within you, that your mind calls forward this reconnaissance patrol. And it sends this reconnaissance patrol off into the future to explore what this decision is all about. And then it returns and reports back to us and says, you don't want to do that. You can lose everything. Anybody relate with that? Okay. Now, you know, it's said that babies are only born with only two fears. You know what they are? Falling and loud noises. Loud noises. Every other fear we have, take a breath, is learned. It's acquired. Now, I don't suppose that survival, fight or flight syndrome fear, because that's instinctual. But I'm talking about all the other fears that we have in our life we drag along with us, and that's what I want to talk to you about. Have you ever heard the acronym for fear, F-E-A-R, false evidence appearing real? I've got a much better one for you than that. Forget everything and run. Because isn't that what happens when fear arises? We just turn literally on our heels, if not metaphorically, physically, and we run. We run to the liquor cabinet, the medicine cabinet, the refrigerator, the shopping mall. It doesn't matter. What we're doing is entering into denial. And you know, there's many boats departing down the river of denial on a regular basis. And the problem is, when you're done with your trip, you have to come back. And when you come back to reality, there's that fear sitting right on the dock like a loyal puppy dog going, can we pick up where we left off? And so a lot of people have fears. They've been dancing with the same fear all their life because the process of denial doesn't work. It's a great reliever sometimes, but it doesn't get rid of the fear. And so, and again, this circles back around to this concept of uncertainty and how to learn to live in the mystery of it. I have 3 touchstones that you can think about when it comes to asking the question, what role does fear play in my daily life? The first touchstone is this: you can run, but you cannot hide. Fear, you can't outrun fear. Why? Q&A time. Why?
It's within you.
Because it's not out there. Fear can be stimulated by something out there, but it arises from within our own being, yeah? So you can't outrun it. You can run, but you can't hide. So all the processes we do with the things we do to deny the fear or avoid it, get over it. Get over it. The second touchstone is this: all fear is attached to a fear of death, concern of death. Now, broaden the concept of death. The fear of loss. It could be the fear of the death of a career, or a relationship, or loved one, a reputation, a bank account. Whatever, you look around, whatever you're feeling fear about, there's a concern of loss of something, right? Now, the third touchstone is this, that in the East they tell us you have to learn how to dance with your demons. Dance with your demons. Dance with your demons. That means rather than run from your fear, that you stand proactively with it. And we'll probably talk about that this afternoon in the workshop. Stand with your fear and have a dialogue with it. Pull it in close like it's on the dance floor with you. Hold it close as you're dancing. Rather than running from it, pull it in close and whisper in its ear and say, oh, beloved teacher, in this moment, teach me what I need to know about you so I can transcend you. That's the only way that you'll ever be able to learn in the mystery of uncertainty and have peace with it, is to make peace with fear. That doesn't mean you're never going to have fear again, but it means you can learn to lead the dance. And that's the core of this, The Art of Uncertainty, this book. Okay? The second question you can ask yourself on a daily basis to see how well you might be able to apply these ideas of living in the mystery is ask yourself this question: what do I need to let go of? What do I need to let go of that's keeping me stuck? Now, the fact is, that probably everyone in this room walked through the door this morning already aware of something that needs to be released in their life. It could be a fear, it could be an anxiety, it could be a thing, it could be a person. And if we listen closely enough, when we ask the question, I'm a deep believer in self-inquiry, and we'll talk about that this afternoon in this workshop. When we ask the question, what do I need to let go of? If we're willing to be accountable and hold ourselves accountable and present in the moment, we'll be able to see what it is we need to let go of. You know why? Because it becomes the story that we tell over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. If not to other people, to ourselves internally. And we tell the story often enough, and oftentimes the story has something to do not only with loss, but it has to do with either the past, we're dragging somebody or something behind us, right? Or it's projecting us into the future. And that story is oftentimes based on anger, resentment, or a fear of what tomorrow may bring that we don't have any control over. Take a breath. You don't have any control over what's going to happen tomorrow. You think you do, but you don't. Right? And so, and by the way, it's not always negative things, stories that you tell over and over. And you understand what I mean by stories? The things that we repeat to ourselves and others on a regular basis until it becomes, right now one of the big stories is the politicians and doing what they're doing. It's on the news. We can't avoid it. We're being bombarded with a lot of negative messages about it, and pretty soon we get caught up in that story. And what happens is, the more we tell the story, the deeper the rut that we live in goes, and pretty soon the story defines who we are. And when our stories define us, and you know people who they have defined themselves by the stories that they tell. When they see us walking down the street, they don't have to ask how you're doing. They already know, because they know your story. And the truth is, it doesn't always have to be a negative story. This is a true story. It's in the book. This is a story about a man who's 90 years old. His name was Stan. He came to me one year or two, about 1985, just shortly after starting the church. He came to me, and he's just a sweet old guy. He's 90 years old, had big periwinkle blue eyes, and wore a little sports cap. He was just a really wonderful guy. He came into my office and said, "Can we talk?" I said, "Yeah, what's going on, Sam?" He says, I'm so sad. I'm sad." I said, "What's going on, Sam?" He said, "Well, 5 years ago, my beloved wife passed. I've been a widow for 5 years. And now I've decided it's time for me to get back in the game. I got more miles in me, and I don't want to travel them alone." 90 years old? That's an optimist, yeah? And he said, "I have no trouble finding women to date." Because he was a very charming guy. He said, "The problem is, after a date or two, they don't want to see me again. And it's crushing my heart. Would you please come to my house one night, we'll have dinner, I'll make dinner for you, and we can talk about this. I need help." So I did. I went to his home, we had a nice dinner, and as I was sitting there having dinner with him and listening to him talk, the conversation immediately went to the topic of his beloved wife. 5 years gone. I looked around the house, and on every wall adorned with pictures of her. Her clothes still hung in the closets. He still wore a wedding band. None of these things are bad. Please don't say, I'm not criticizing these things. What I'm saying is, what the challenge is if these things are holding him back, and that's what I said, Stan, none of these things are bad, but if they're holding you back from moving forward in your life, you really need to look at letting this go. Because here's the problem. With the ladies that you're seeing, they get it real quick. They get the message. You're not available. You don't have room in your life for them because you're holding on to this. And we talked about that, and we did a little prayer work on it. And he, God bless him, about 3, 4, 5 months later, I ran into him in the grocery store. And I know my treatment worked. is walking arm in arm with his new fiancée. Young lady, 88 years old. My point is, we all have to entertain the question, what is it I need? It's not always physical things. By the way, that's one of the topics in my latest book, just came out, The Art of Abundance. It's not always physical materials, things that we're holding on to. A lot of times it's emotional things, okay? And if we can learn to ask the question in the moment, who would I be without this fill in the blank? Whatever I'm holding on to, whatever I'm clinging to. It could be a person, it could be a career that's no longer there, it could be a relationship, it could be a financial status. Who would I be without all these things? Because they all define me. And we realize that we can't be defined by the things that we have in our life, including people. We're set free of them. That doesn't mean they have to go away, but it means we're free not to have them in our lives. There's a great saying in the Tao Te Ching. When I let go of what I am, I become what I can be. When I let go of what I have, I receive what I need. Take a nice deep breath. So, first, what role does fear play? Keep me stuck? What do I need to let go of? The third question is I think, it kind of kicks it through the goalposts, okay? And it's this. Do I take time daily to contemplate the immense, amazing gift that has been given to me? Do I take time daily to contemplate and feel gratitude? And am I living a life, am I unfolding my life in a way that honors the giver of the gift? And of course the gift is what? Life itself. Life is such a pearl of great price. We take it for granted. We take it for granted until we're faced with the loss of it. I'm a deep believer in self-inquiry. And when we can enter into self-inquiry, especially around this question about the gift of life and am I using it, first off, we have to be aware that we have it. We have to live so mindfully. That's our workshop this afternoon is going to be about, is living in the presence of it and being aware of it. In the East, I believe it comes from the Indian tradition, probably the Vedas, referred to the three miracles. And I don't remember that, I'll wrap it up right soon. The three miracles, the first miracle is that anything exists. Think about that. Anything exists. Go out and look at the stars at night. Just be out in nature and love it. That's quite a miracle, isn't it? The second miracle is that living things exist. Living things exist. Puppy dogs, trees, birds, living things exist that are animated with a life force by the beloved one, and that they have a life force and an energy of their own. That's a miracle, is it not? And then, of course, the third miracle is living things exist that know they exist. Self-awareness. To be able to analyze, to be so aware of our thoughts, to be able to step outside of them and watch them parade in front of us, and to be able to choose the thoughts that we allow to enter our consciousness and the ones we don't. Self-awareness. And I know this, when we live with truly deep self-awareness, being witness to our own thoughts, beliefs, and actions, we become the masters of our own destiny. And at that moment that we live so fully aware of that being that we are, when we're able to merge our being with our doing. Being is this. Doing is this. Okay? And we can merge our being and our doing and live in that place of where those 2 points merge. We'll discover a life worth living. And we can't do that unless we're willing to ascend to an awareness that life is not a static thing, that it's always calling us forward. We are imbued with the need to push out, to grow, to evolve. Holmes referred to it as the creative urge, pushing out through every living thing. And the divine imperative is grow or die. So as we begin to allow ourselves to live in the mystery of uncertainty, all of a sudden we realize that uncertainty dissipates, it disappears. Why? Because uncertainty is man-made. That doesn't mean the mystery of life, the universe, doesn't continue to unfold. The universe is expanding at the speed of light. And they say now beyond that. And it not even knows where it's going. But since we're one with it, the mystery becomes part of our innate spiritual DNA to live in and thrive with rather than fear. And then we realize we're here on purpose. You're not here just to suck air and jam stuff down your pipe hole. You're here to live a life of purpose and meaning. And you know, Richard Bach in his great book Illusion said it so beautifully. Here's a test to know if your mission on earth is completed. If you're alive, it's not. I close with a beautiful saying by Guillaume Apollinaire, a French mystic and poet and social pundit. He said it all. He said, come to the edge. They said, no, we're afraid. Come to the edge, he said. They came. He pushed them. They flew. Come to the edge. There's more for you to be doing, or you would not be on this planet. Your mission is not complete, but you will never accomplish it by staying stuck in the box. Come to the edge. I look forward to spending some time with you this afternoon in our workshop where we'll go deeper into a lot of these ideas. Thank you so much. Peace.